When a character is knocked back, they get forcibly moved away from the source of the knockback in a straight line, and the knockback effect will specify the number of hexes. You don't get to choose the direction or the number of hexes. Knockback typically occurs immediately after an attack which has the knockback keyword, but it can sometimes occur in other situations as well. In this example, the penitent attacks the giant rat with knockback 2. Assuming the attack didn't miss, the rat gets pushed 2 hexes in this direction, and because there's nothing in the way, that's all that happens. Knockback doesn't necessarily inflict any damage. But if the knockback path is blocked by anything, such as an obstacle or another character, then they slam into it violently and lose 1 hit point. And if the thing they slam into is another character, friend or foe, then they lose a hit point as well. Knockback is pretty straightforward with normal-sized enemies, but there are a few things to look out for with large enemies. Firstly, knockback should not be confused with push. If a large enemy moves, and you need to clear a space for it to land, then any characters get pushed out of the way. Pushing is non-violent and doesn't result in the loss of hit points, even if there are obstacles or characters in the way. As you can imagine, large enemies have a lot of mass, so it makes sense that they're more difficult to knock back. Large characters only get moved half the knockback amount, rounded up. In this example, the RV attacks a large enemy with knockback 2. After resolving the attack, which didn't miss, we move her 1 hex directly away from the RV. And because nothing blocked that movement, the knockback didn't cause any additional damage. But now let's rewind and suppose that the RV's attack had included knockback 3. If we halve that and round up, we get 2 hexes of movement. Since the tree is in the way, the enemy slams into it and loses 1 hit point. The enemy's flank and rear hex both collided with the tree, but she only loses 1 hit point because she collided with 1 obstacle. And the rule of north then west tells us to apply the damage to her rear. And because the enemy is large, the tree also gets destroyed. In this example, the blade is attacking the enemy's flank, followed by knockback 3. Assuming the attack didn't miss, the knockback distance is 2 hexes. But there are some giant rats in the way, so she collides with them violently. The large enemy loses 1 hit point for each character or obstacle she collides with, which means that she loses 1 hit point from her flank and 1 from her front. The rats she collided with also lose 1 hit point each, and since giant rats only have 1 hit point, they're killed and removed from the board. Notice that knocked back characters don't continue moving after a collision. In this example, the large enemy hasn't even moved. If knockback is blocked by the edge of the board, then the character stops moving, but without losing any hit points. Also note that knockback occurs even if the target is killed or knocked unconscious by the attack. Finally, be aware that in some situations you don't get to apply the knockback effect at all, even when the keyword appears. One example is if your attack misses. Another example is when you remove a hit point die from a large enemy. That will cause your attack to be interrupted, and you don't get to apply the knockback. You'll find more knockback examples in Appendix 2 of the Encounter Rulebook.